So right now, what I want to do is show the way I lay track, and what I like to do is I start from the turnout because that is the most critical point in which your track has to be for the crossovers. It has to make sure that you line them up correctly and fairly perfectly. I built a mock-up of it would be the other way around, but just for purposes of visual aid, this is kind of what I made up. I cut this out of an old piece of how far it needed to be to line up on both sides. So it helped me when I was putting in this turnout. I just simply put it in like there. So then I got a nice way of telling which way and where my other turnout will land. Like that. So I put this in first, this whole thing I put in first, and then I started laying my track. I don't use glue or anything to put down turnouts, so right there and right there and there I drilled out holes to put nails in. I will be nailing all my track down, so from here on I nailed here, nailed there, so I will be able to pull it up if I ever need to change something. It'll be a lot easier than dealing with glue or adhesives. So as I come down here, I got one in there, and the feeders are right here, which you can't even see because they're right underneath my rail joiners. So with that being said, they say in everything I've read not to use rail joiners to hook up your wire to. It doesn't conduct the electricity and command signal very well. But with that being said, I'm going to put them on every single track joiner. I have them here, and I have them here so far. So what I've read is every 3 feet or 6 feet. So being that I'm using the rail joiners, I'm going to use it every 3 feet. So what I need to do now is that we're up to the crossover here. I have my mock-up, and I'm going to center it as well as I can. That looks good to me. Coming over here and here, it's just touching each side of the cork there, so it looks fairly centered. Gotta make sure that this is centered. This one and this one here are centered also. I try to line up the line in the cork to the center of my turnout. Got that there, so that looks good to me. I'm going to make a line right here on the cork so now I got to cut a section between here and here. So I got a 3-foot section right here, and thanks to George, the Shade Tree Fix-It Man, and sometimes goes as the Shade Tree Railroad Man, he gave me a bunch of 3-foot sections. So thank you very much, and that's what I'm using right now. So what I want to do is just measure from here to here. Person who had these before soldered on all their ends, so I have to cut it back here to get a clean piece, which isn't a big deal. It's only be a few inches shorter because I do it on both sides. But I'll measure for back here when I do. Lined up nicely. My marks are right here. Extend them a little bit, and I'll cut right here and right here. It says with these tools to cut straight up and down on HO and then sideways on N. So now they are to the length that I need, and they'll match up with my turnout, and everything should be within alignment. Now I just have to cut off the ties here. Ties here are good, so I'll just cut off a tie section here and drop feeder wires and then nail everything down. So I cut the tie off. I filed down the edges of the rails, and now I got to take my wire, which is the one I built, 20 gauge, and put it down through the sub road bed. Now again, I like to, there's holes inside the track, so I try to line those up with the center line of the cork roadbed. So then it'll put my rails where they need to be, and I can drill. Now it's not, this track is not nailed down at this point, it's just hooked up to the rail joiners. So now all I'm going to do is fish these down. I put my copper one on the outside rail. My silver one on the inside rail. These connectors are really sharp, so sometimes I like to use gloves, which makes it a lot easier. Those are all lined up nicely. They're in there, so now the only thing I have to do is nail them down. Now, all I do to nail it down is I line the hole up with that center line in the cork roadbed. Now, the book I read from Jeff Wilson said if you're going to nail them, do every 12 ties. So, I put 3 in here. It's probably a little more than 12 ties, but I think it'll be sufficient for this track. Hang on, it can be bumpy. Now, I don't nail them all the way down. I leave them up a little bit. So if I ever needed to, come in there and pry up on these if I ever needed to move it. Right there, it's a little high, or it moves a little bit. So I'll put another spike there. So that's that. Now, I'm reluctant to cut ties off of here. Maybe that's because I'm new at this and I just don't want to mess up a turnout. But I keep these in. I keep all the ties in. Let me see if I can get it to focus on it. There is a gap in between all of the rails on this. So it fits a rail joiner in there real well where it won't lift the turnout up. So that's what I use instead of cutting out the cutting off the ties. So what I do now is I try gently to push that in there and then line it up so it's even. Time.
It makes sense if you don't think about it.
High five. Good job.